You're watching CN2 News. Two Chester County principals wanted to make a difference during the pandemic. They started R.E.A.L.L and Educate LLC to help educators and parents during some tough times. They're focusing on literacy and leadership. CN2's R.E.A.L.L Jackson has more on how they're helping the community.
R.E.A.L and Educate, we are a consulting firm that works with educators as well as entrepreneurs. So with the side where we're working with educators, we offer professional development on literacy as well as implicit bias. We work with leaders and leadership teams to help improve schools.
They've been surviving pandemic education by offering tips for school leaders, teachers, and parents.
We really want to see kids through the trajectory, graduating from high school, ready to go to college or to start a career or to go into the military.
R.E.A.L and Educate has multiple community partners in the area that read books to children weekly, discuss literature, and express their support for the education system. Recently, the owners were featured for Amazon's #1 best-selling book entitled Women Who Lead in Education.
And so we are super, super excited because we're amongst a family of women leaders who are absolutely extraordinary. So it's an honor to have been asked to participate. And then even more of an honor now that the book has gone on sale and it became a #1 bestseller. So you don't have to be a school leader to have leadership qualities.
Collectively, both Tammy Taylor, principal of Great Falls Elementary, and Dr. Sheka Houston, principal of Chester Middle School, have 40 years of service in education. They have learned the need in their community, and they plan to
serve all children in all communities. And one of the things that we enlighten people about in our professional development with literacy is that sometimes it's hard for children to connect to text because they don't see themselves in text. Providing that culturally relevant literature for students, and that's not just African American students, that's all students. Every student at every school should be able to see themselves in a book, in a text, to be able to connect with it.
Surviving pandemic education together in Chester, R.E.A.L Jackson, CN2 News.
Again, their goal is to help connect educators, parents, community members, and authors each week to help better navigate the pandemic. To learn more about R.E.A.L and Educate LLC, simply follow them on Facebook or at their website at createandeducate.com.
R.E.A.L and Educate held their first personal event after a year of completely virtual events. The organization started during the pandemic, and their goal was to create a way to educate students, teachers, and families virtually. During their Lunch and Learn event, teachers, university experts, leaders, and educators speaking about ways to prepare students since the pandemic.
It has been very difficult. Some teachers have decided to leave the profession as well as leaders. So we know that education is something that all of our children need. We want to be able to build resilience in our leaders and our teachers so that our education system will be resilient as well.
We needed to provide the space for some dialogue on how we move forward from here and how we can shift where we are in education so that as we move forward, we're moving forward and we are not just trying to do school as usual, but truly looking for some new and innovative ideas for what's going to take us to that next level.
R.E.A.L and Educate also celebrating its 1-year anniversary.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning.
We are, as you can see, Tammy's in a different location. She's actually in one of my favorite places in New Orleans.
In New Orleans, y'all.
Yes, being able to eat my favorite char-grilled oysters and beignets and all of the fabulous things that can happen in New Orleans. So hopefully I'll get my turn to go before the year.
Definitely, I'm sure you will.
The year is out. But as you can see, we're having to pre-record because Tammy has a presentation to do in the morning. You want to tell them a little bit about the presentation first, Tammy?
Sure. And we will actually be presenting at 10:30. So we did not want to not provide you guys with our PD for Saturday. We are here. I'm here with Winthrop University, and I'm super excited because we are a partner school. My elementary school is a partner school with Winthrop's NetSurf program, and it's a tremendous experience because it's a teacher residency experience, and we are able to have teacher residents who are placed in our schools who are going to, after their internship, commit to working in my school, in our district, for 3 years. So it's a strong recruiting tool. And we are thankful because my school's very, very rural. And we're kind of here to talk about that aspect of things. We're going to share how this serves as a recruitment tool for schools like mine, where it's hard to get people to come as far out as we are and to get people to stay. So I'm excited about the opportunity to share. It's the AACTE conference, and it's tremendous. It's been a huge, big thing. So I'm honored to have been selected to come out here.
That's awesome, Tammy. And the other thing that I like about the residency is that it's paid. So
Yeah.
it really does. When we were talking about shifts and what they just saw at our lunch and learn event. These are the types of things that will shift education in the right direction, because when you talk about a paid residency where they're able to learn but also earn while they're learning, it puts that respect back to the profession that you see in other industries like the medical field. So like you said, it's a great recruiting tool. It's a great way for interns to be able to learn but still earn while they're learning and not just working for free. And that's showing that we actually value them, their time and their contribution, and being able to provide them with the support that they need to actually be impactful teachers.
Absolutely. I think another important thing for us to kind of mention with that program is these are not traditional teacher applicants. These are teachers who are studying to be teachers who are coming from another profession. They have a degree in something other than education, and they're earning a master's, I think, in early childhood or elementary education, maybe even special ed. My teacher resident at my school is early childhood, but I think it's important for us to note that because, like Sheka said, these are career changers. Some of them are coming straight from an undergraduate program where they majored in something else. But some of these people have worked in different areas and are now coming into the field of education, and honestly in a non-traditional way. So it's just like Sheka said, very, very new and innovative, and it's a way for us to bring more people into our schools that are qualified to do what we want them to do with our kids.
Exactly. And I am a career changing educator. I was in mortgages and real estate before I began education. My background was business. So these types of programs really do help people who really have a passion and want to change.
And I think that's important too, Sheka. I'm glad you brought that up because it's near and dear to my heart too, because I was in corporate banking. So you know that there are people who are capable of coming in to education and doing a great job if given the opportunity. But it goes back to something that you said before too. It isn't always the most lucrative or appealing place to come because you are often leaving
a much higher paid profession, and you're having to give up everything that you're earning to go back to school. So that stipend that these folks are getting helps with them having to go cold turkey, no income at all, and also while they're earning a degree. So it's a really, really interesting thing. And what I've enjoyed most about being here, because this is something that's new and different, and you probably have already heard about this because you already had a teacher residence, but EdTPA is a brand new way of looking at getting these folks ready for a classroom too. So that they've had several sessions on the process. So that's been really interesting to learn about.
That's awesome. I can't wait for you all to bring that information back to the district because, you know, with our what we have facing us as far as different rates going up at different places, like I've heard Target's going to be paying $24 an hour. The entire industry as far as employment is changing. So the way that we do things, the way that everyone does things as far as attracting, retaining, keeping people, we're really going to have to start shifting our thinking in that whole aspect. So I can't wait for you all to bring that back to the district.
Honey, when Brittany was telling me that Target was going to pay $24 an hour, or did you tell me that yesterday?
Probably.
I was thinking, I don't know. I might like to go work at Target. I love Target. How much I love going to Target. And I don't even like stores.
Exactly. And they're not bad, jobs to make $24 an hour. So yeah, we're gonna have to step our game up in education.
Definitely.
Start looking at the Google and the Chick-fil-A model.
Yes.
But thank you all again for joining us. This is the R.E.A.L. Academy. Tammy and I focus on literacy and leadership based on our framework, the 5 super strengths that we've created for create and educate to build resilient schools and resilient leaders. Our framework, as you can see at the top, starts with the door: respect, excellence, accountability, literacy, and leadership. So today we're going to be talking about a topic, as you can see on the screen, the 2022 Special Education Advocates of Color Summit. We are golden sponsors for this event. It's a virtual event. It's actually happening today as we speak. Right now, though, what's happening is I think they're just doing some intros, and the actual first sessions don't start until 11. So we've shared this out in several different places. If you haven't gotten a chance to register, it's not too late. And I'm hoping that recordings will be available as well. But having advocates in special education, just speaking from the standpoint of being a builder level principal and serving as an LEA and IEP meetings, I think it's something that is truly needed. And I definitely think that making sure that people of color have representation is also something that's very needed. So I'm very excited that we were able to partner with Umoja. They have hosting this virtual event, and they have several different great speakers. I'm going to go down the list here just so you can see. The keynote speaker is the National Teacher of the Year. She's nationally board certified, and she's from an elementary school in Las Vegas, Nevada. And there are several other speakers. We're just going to highlight a few of the topics and kind of expand on them. This session with Ms. Goss here, Know Your Rights, Applying Special Education Law to Request and Receive Appropriate Services. So it's interesting that I just had this conversation with someone from Michigan that was talking with me about the laws in South Carolina because they had a relative that was experiencing some problems or some challenges with her child who's in a school district who has an IEP. and she had not received it's a copy of the rights for parents that tells them exactly what their rights are. So what she was asking me was, in South Carolina, is that typical? Because every state has different things that take place. And of course, this is nothing that has ever happened in my district, but we can talk about districts and things that I've heard around the surrounding districts. So sometimes parents are not given what is known as the copy of their rights. And the reason I think that this conference is important and to have knowledge about having an advocate is so important, because sometimes as the LEA, as the principal, you do want to make sure, and I always advocated for what was best for children. Sometimes when you're advocating what's best for the child, it looks like to some district personnel or to some people that you may be going against the district, or you may look obstinate, or you may look a certain way that's not considered what they considered it, what you should be doing. Now, when you're advocating for children, I'm all about that. And I'm just the type of person that, I really don't care what people think. But for some people who feel uncomfortable being in that position, this is where advocacy could really help, because they can actually make sure that they're speaking up for the parent, that the parent knows exactly what their rights are, that they know the laws. Because when you look at the handbooks for special education, you need a law degree a lot of times to decipher what is actually being said in those documents. So for a parent who may even have some challenges themselves, that could be very intimidating, and it could be very frustrating. So having that advocate, I think, is a great thing to have. And it also doesn't put, depending on what the politics are in your district, because that's a very real thing for school leaders, it doesn't put the principal in a compromising position. What do you think?
The thing sometimes, I don't know, and I'm just speaking as someone just like you who's had to be LEA in a meeting with family before. I think it's our responsibility to represent the child in the way that they need us. Like it's very important. And I know exactly what you're saying because it's the truth, but I don't really understand why it becomes such a personal thing, or people shy away from it, because in almost all aspects of everything that we do, you see that the parents' right to know is an essential part of what is required of us as school leaders. And I say that just to say, if you've ever taught in a Title I school, or if you've ever led a Title I school, you know that that's a part of the communication that you have to have on a regular with Title I parents. They have a right to know what their rights are as a Title I parent. And to me, that is the same as being in a situation where parents have the right to know what their rights are and what services their children qualify for if they're special ed.
And you're exactly right, Tammy. It is the same. And I think that, this is the R.E.A.L. Academy, so we're going to keep it real. The reason why some people may not want parents to know is because they take advantage of that. They take advantage of the fact that, if they don't know certain things, we can get away with certain things. And it's unfortunate, but we know that it happens, because that's the whole reason why an entire act had to be created, to protect people with disabilities, because people were taking advantage of the fact that they weren't doing certain things, and certain laws had to be created around that. So unfortunately, that happens. And Again, this is another reason why having these advocates are so inclusive.
That's a dangerous game, though, isn't it?
It is. It's a very dangerous game. And another session I wanted to highlight is Dr. Jones, who's going to be talking about designing inclusive learning environments, which I think, again, speaking from that building level principal perspective, is so important, because I think a lot of times when people think about inclusion, they think about placing students with special needs or IEPs in the regular ed classroom, and basically that's the extent of it. That does not constitute inclusion. That's a part of it, but there's so many other things that needs to go along with that. And Tammy, you used to be an inclusion teacher, is that right?
I was, yes. And that's what I was telling you before. Like, I do think that the model is probably one of the best designs there is to meet the needs, to truly meet the needs of special needs children. But I believe, as you said when we were talking earlier, it really takes the right people to pull that off. Because if you, as the teacher, don't know how to utilize and work alongside the resource teacher who's coming in to support learning in the classroom, you're off balance. And if the resource person coming into the classroom really doesn't know and understand what that role needs to look like, again, you're off balance. So kids don't get the genuine benefit of that. But I was fortunate and had a resource teacher who she and I just had the synergy it took to make sure that our kids got what they needed. And when you came into that classroom, because she was in there all morning, that's the beauty of inclusion, and that's why I loved it so much. But when you came into the room, really didn't know which one of us. If you didn't know, you wouldn't know who was the teacher, and you wouldn't know who the special ed children were, because that was the way that the class flowed. And we were working, and we were able to work with small groups and allowed for there to be that individualization and differentiation that's needed to make sure that we were able to move those kids. And each year, and this is just a blessing, but every year my special ed kids had the most growth of kids throughout the entire school, because I really believe that inclusion model was a part of what allowed us to be able to do that. And my principal at the time, who was very creative and an outside the box thinker, actually created a model where one year I had a half and half split. I had 12 gifted and talented students, and I had 12 resource students and 4 mainstream students. And I know that sounds like a lot of kids, because it was, and that's what we used to do at that time. But it was probably the best year of teaching that I had. And there are lots of reasons for that. It wasn't just the inclusion, but it was a tremendous experience, and the kids were able to support one another. So a good inclusive learning environment really is beneficial for kids. However, I've also supervised an inclusion model that was horrific, and I had to stop it because the children weren't getting what they needed. So I understand exactly where you're coming from, Sheka, and it does not always work. If you don't have the right people, they're not trained to do what they need to do, then that balance isn't there. And so you don't get the bang for your buck. But that, to me, was something that was very, very meaningful. And so I'm a huge proponent of an inclusive learning environment.
And I think there are several key things that you mentioned in there. One being that co-teaching. I think that's one of the biggest elements that's missing. A lot of times, some resource teachers may not have had the training, so they go in as support instead of the co-teacher.
Correct.
And the other part of it is leadership also has to build in those collaborative opportunities to be able to co-teach. You have to be able to co-plan. You have to be able to have time to analyze data and do all of those things that you talked about, you and your co-teacher were able to do.
And that's the blessing. Like I said, that my administrator was that person who knew that those things had to happen. So I'm not talking about we were trying to find time to plan, but her planning was the same as my planning. So we were able to plan and collaborate. And she was an essential part of the data discussions in the room, not just for the students she was assigned to serve. So it was very, very important that she had ownership in the classroom too.
Exactly. I love that. And the last thing that you said that I wanted to highlight is that you could not tell the students who were special needs versus the students who were regular ed. That's very important as well. Because when you single the children out and say, oh, you all that are so-and-so's children, you all go with her to whatever room, and that just defeats the whole purpose of inclusion. I've seen that happen as well. So the model that you've described is the type, that you really expect for it to be successful.
And it isn't all roses and rainbows and unicorns, because as I said, as a principal, I had to halt a situation where it was not working. So we had to regroup because that particular teacher, it didn't work in that scenario.
Exactly. And one last, and we're gonna get out of Principal Kafele's way because he is highlighting women, African American women in leadership for the month of March. So we want to shout him out. I think that is amazing.
Thank you so much, Principal Kafele.
Yes,
and I cannot wait to watch it. I have to go to the recording today.
Oh, okay. Katina Fox is hosting a session on disproportionately exceptional biases and best practices in serving twice exceptional children. So in some instances, I haven't looked at the explanation for her session, but usually twice identified is that they're GT as well as may also have a disability. And that's usually very rare that you see that, because I don't think that many people are very versed in recognizing those two things at once. So again, we are very excited about being golden sponsors for this event. I'm going to put a link in the comments for registration. It's still not too late to register. And I'm hoping that they're going to have recordings available. But the main thing that I wanted you all, and Tammy and I wanted to be able to do, is make sure that you all know that this is an agency that can be referred to parents for advocacy, because it is so important nowadays for parents to know their rights and for them to have real advocates, especially in areas where the principal may not, because of district politics, be able to truly advocate the way that they need to for students. And we know that that happens in some places, unfortunately. So thank you all for joining us. Tammy, enjoy your session and
pray that it goes well. I think it'll be great.
We know it's going to go well, but I'm definitely going to pray. And bring me back some char-grilled oysters.
I wish I could. I thought about you today. They sent me something, and it's funny because when you texted and said Acme was the restaurant today, like I've been getting these alerts all day that Acme was having a special menu this morning. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, their
food should have been here. So
yes, their food is so good. And I've been getting all your Uber alerts. So if anybody try to kidnap you, I'm on it.
I got you, honey. And, he asked me because he saw me when I was sending it the other day. And I said, well, I'm just being safe, sir.
That's right. Tell them that's how we do. Well, thank you all for joining us. And we will see you next Saturday. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Go on and join Principal Kafele, y'all.
Yes, because we're way over. Thank you.
Bye.